Welcome to Everyday Orthodox. I'm Elisa Bielatich-Davis, and I'm glad you're joining us. We're getting together here on Sunday nights to meet another Everyday Orthodox Christian every week. It's really nice. It's like coffee hour. You know, you just get to talk to different people and hear about what they're doing, and it's fun. And tonight, I will be introducing you to a friend of mine from my home parish of Transfiguration in Austin. And actually, her husband was one of our very first, maybe our first guest or one of our first guests. Yeah. His name is Sonia Phocas, and you can look up his story if you want to hear the other side here. But this is his wife, Sonia. And so it's wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you very much for asking me. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here. You know, Sonia is, I should tell you a little about Sonia. Okay. Sonia is actually really very interesting. She comes from South Africa, and we'll hear that whole story. But also, in our church, she has been the Goya advisor, taking care of the teenagers. She has wonderful kids. She and her husband have a very wonderful, private business. It's a granite business. It's excellent. They do beautiful work. I even bought my countertop from them. But no, they really do. They do wonderful work. And I love Sonia, and she has a great story, and I'm looking forward to talking to her tonight. So this is Sonia. So start us off, Sonia. Tell us, where were you born? And so what is were you the firstborn? Are you younger? How did it all work?
Okay. Well, hello and pleasure to be here. So my name is Sonia. My actual baptismal name is Arsinoi Eli. That's when I was baptized. And but I go by Sonia because nobody could pronounce it. I am the first of two siblings. So it's me and my brother. I was born in South Africa to Greek parents. All my grandparents are from the same village in Greece. So very thoroughbred, I'd say. Born, so I'm the term cradle Orthodox was the first time I'd ever heard it when I came to America. So I'm a cradle Orthodox, born into the church, got baptized. I was 3 months old. I believe I screamed my whole baptism, and my poor mother. And I have a younger brother who's 3 years younger than me. My parents and brother still live in South Africa. But then I got married to Dennis in 1990. We got married and 2 years later moved to Zimbabwe, where we lived for 10 years. And then due to political issues, which we can go into as much or little detail, we decided to leave and move to another country. And we had very dear friends that lived here in Austin, Nick and Chrissy Sparopoulos. They said, come on over before you make any decision. And that's how we got here. We arrived, we fell in love with Austin, and 23 years later, we're still here.
There you go. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you ended up here. It's excellent.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you.
So you're born to Greek parents in South Africa. Yes. Is there a big community of Greeks in South Africa? How's that work?
So when I was growing up, very big Greek community. We were about, in my city, well, the whole country was about 80,000 Greek people. In Johannesburg, where I grew up, we must have had at least 50 to 60,000. I would say, similar, sort of like Chicago, I would say vibes, in the sense of we had about 10 parishes all around us. We used to go to our small little parish, tiny little church called of St. Nectarios. But then we had the big cathedral, which was downtown, and that's where my parents got married. My brother and I got baptized. Dennis and I got married. Unfortunately, it now is not a very safe part of the inner city, and my parents still go, much to our please don't go. It's not safe. But they love their priests, so they keep going. There's only about 20 or 30 people that go there, whereas the parishes that are closer to the suburbs are a lot busier. So I grew up very Greek. Mom and dad Greek. We had to speak Greek at home. If anybody's seen my big fat Greek wedding, that was my wedding. That was, except I married the good Greek boy. Right. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, everything was around being Greek. There was Greek school, Greek church, family Greek. We were allowed to be have sleepovers at Greek friends and not, we call them English friends, English as opposed to non-Greeks. Because they knew the family. We knew where you were. My parents would say, but they're the same as us. we similar kind of thing. So growing up, I went to an all-girls school. It was a public school. So I felt very different. There were only 3 Greek girls in the whole school. So, when you spoke about your church, everybody was like, what do you do? Like on Fridays, like Good Friday, you block off the streets and you do this procession thing. And what do you mean you drink like blood and water and blood and party, that kind of stuff. Yep. So I love my Goya group, and we did have Goya, and we called it Goya because, they were the same as me. They understood me. So so again, Greek parents. The granny lived with us for a number of years, and when they didn't live with us, they were down the road. So grew up with them all with me.
Now, how do so many Greeks end up in South Africa? How did that? Was it for work? Was it economic? What was it?
It was economic. A lot of Greeks came, not so much turn of the century, but definitely First World War type era. My grandparents from my mother's side, they left as single people. They didn't know each other, and they left after the First World War. And it was just poverty and economic reasons in Greece. It was come to Africa. Africa's got gold on the streets. There's the opportunity. And the idea was always you come to Africa, but then you're going to go back home. Right. The talk was, don't go to America. When you go to America, you never come back. So,
a little too permanent, huh? Because you would like it, I guess. Don't go to America. It'll be good enough to stay.
There we go.
But it is interesting, though, because when you think of European immigrants so often, you really think of really a permanent immigration. You don't think of itinerant labor, kind of migrant worker kind of situation, but it really is very often, I think earlier in history, before World War I and World War I, certainly, there are plenty of Greeks or Serbians or Russians or whoever who came over to work in a mine and then go back home or something.
And that's it. And that was the idea, that we're going to make money, make a living, and go back home. My grandmother was one of 11. All 10 out of the 11 moved to a little country called Malawi in Africa, and her one sister moved to America. She got married to an American Greek. Otherwise, so I've got a huge family in Southern Africa. But we're going to go back. Nobody's gone back. Nobody ever went back. Yeah, we're all still there. So, but interestingly, my gran and my grandpa got married in a little country called Malawi. There would be a priest that would come once every 6 months from the surrounding country, probably Zimbabwe. And then it would be, okay, the priest is in town. What are we going to do? And they would just do multiple baptisms. They were living right on a lake, so the baptisms were done in the lake. Because there was no Greek church. They would ask the Anglican or the Catholic Church if they could maybe sometimes use their church. But weddings were done in a barn with the priestess happened to be there. So, and then for me it was incredible that my grandparents still kept their faith, not having the priest and the church and all of that. But it fascinated me that photographs of one of my auntie's weddings is she's in a barn, and then my mom's cousin is by a lake getting dunked into the lake water.
That's neat.
But yeah, they came and they never left.
You're right. It really is remarkable that they held on to their faith. And so many people you would think might go to a different church, maybe they'd go to the Anglican church or something, but they were able to hold on to it at home. That's really neat.
My mom and her sister went, because they had to go to boarding school because my grandparents were farmers living far away from the city, and they went to a convent. The nuns, the Catholic nuns, had a school. So my mom, I think my mother knew the Latin Catholic service way better than her Greek divine liturgy, and yet, still kept being Orthodox kind of
That's
thing.
Neat.
So, yeah.
That's lovely. That is really neat. But so in the community then, were you in the city where you were, because you weren't in Malawi anymore, you'd moved, your parents were in Johannesburg?
Johannesburg, yes. My dad grew up in Johannesburg. His parents moved out. Basically, my dad was born as the war broke out, 1939. The war broke out a little bit later. My my dad was born, and then my grandpa moved. He was from South Africa. He had been there many, many years. And he said, I'm going to get everything ready for my family. I'll send you the tickets on the boat for you to come. Well, the war broke out. So now my grandpa couldn't go back and get them. My grandmother couldn't leave Greece. So my dad grew up fatherless for 8 years, because after the Second World War, there was a Greek civil war. So they only left when my dad was about 7 or 8. So that's the first time he ever saw his father. And they moved to South Africa. And then my parents met through families knowing each other. And then my mother moved from Malawi to Johannesburg, and that's where they grew up. That's where he grew up.
That's remarkable that his father couldn't come for so long, or that couldn't come get them for so long.
Yeah.
But it makes, I mean, you would think, moving to Africa, it's such a distance, you would think that might actually even happen more often, right? That the transport would be unreliable, or wars or things would get in the way. That's great. So did they end up like bonding well? Like, did your dad, do you think he felt like he really knew his father after a while, or was it always kind of like, this distant guy?
I think a distant guy. My grandfather was also 27 years older than my grandmother.
Ooh.
So yeah, my grandmother was 23. My grandpa was 50 when they, I think, had my dad.
Wow.
So already you've got that kind of difference, and very patriarchal. It's the head of the family. He does what he does, and I think if this had happened now, a 50-year-old man is very independent. He's been doing things his way for 50 years. Now you got wife and kids in the way, So
right. Well, and also an 8-year-old boy showing up. I mean, it's not like you've been developing with this. This is just like instant family on your doorstep, even though it is your family, but it's kind of strange.
No. And my dad he had a very soft spot for his mom growing up. And I think, and also the first night he met his dad, they were at a neighbor's or a friend's house, and they were staying there. And my dad was swinging on a garden gate, and he swung a little too hard, and the whole gate fell over with half the wall. So he got a really good hiding from his dad, because how do you dare do that? So that's so yeah.
Well, that's a nice way to meet. There you go.
Yeah, there we are.
Yikes! Yeah, and especially his age. I mean, he's like a grandfather almost, right? I mean, with an 8-year-old. Wow.
Exactly. So it was fascinating, but
absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to say my grandfathers were both very philanthropic, but my one grandpa, my dad's dad, he did it. He loved people to know about it. So we would always go as a family to the opening and the cutting of the ribbon. Whereas my other grandpa, he would go whisper in the priest's ear, is there anything you need? And the priest would go, we need new speakers. He goes, okay, I'll go buy them. So I had the example of being very giving to our churches, but on very different ways of showing it.
Absolutely. It's a good example, though. That's really neat. So as you're growing up as a kid, what did you like to do? I mean, you knew mostly the kids and the Greek kids and the church crowd and all of that.
Yes,
but what were you doing together?
So I had my family all around me. I had all my cousins around me. So Sundays was you go to church, you come home, everybody came over to our house. All my cousins, the aunties, uncles. So that's what Sunday was. Definitely, you did not have a play date with anybody out of the family on a Sunday. You did not go out on a Sunday. Interestingly, I also grew up in apartheid South Africa, where on a Sunday, nothing was open. There was no movies, there was no stores, there was nothing. Nothing was open on a Sunday. So Sunday was definitely family day. And even as I grew up, even when I was in my 20, 21, and hey, Dad, I'm thinking of going out tonight, because I'd still let her ask at 20 and 21. He'd go, but it's a Sunday. You don't go out on a Sunday kind of thing. So what did we do as kids growing up? And another thing, we never had TV growing up, because South Africa the government didn't allow TV until I was about 11 or 12. So, so 1977, 1978 was the first broadcasted television program. And that was purely because they didn't want us to see what was going on
Right,
anywhere
exactly. And so then begins the end of apartheid, right? They're like, and they don't like this much.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
one way to do it. It's like North Korea, just don't show them.
Don't show them.
Gosh.
So growing up, we just spent a lot of time outside. The weather's beautiful there. It's like Southern California, just playing with our family, our friends. And then as a teenager, Goya was my social life as well. Friday nights, we would have Goya night every single Friday. Our priest would have a discussion with us, and then we would socialize as kids. And then I was allowed to go to the Goya parties and the Goya birthdays and that kind of stuff. So that was definitely, and then when dating time came, it had to be a Greek boy or nothing.
So tell me, how did you find Dennis? I love this story. This is always my favorite. I just had you tell it last week, in fact, but tell us about it. I love this story.
So I grew up in South Africa, but Dennis came down to South Africa for college. So he was at college, and it was a Sunday night. I was 20 years old, and I begged my father to let me go out that one Sunday. And it was at a country club, and they had a social on. So he let me go. So I took my family, obviously, being the eldest of all my cousins as well, everybody in my car, we're all going out. So I arrive at this they had it like a little nightclub. But I walk in and I see this really good looking guy. So I decided to write him a little note because we couldn't, I don't know, that's what we did in those days. So I wrote him a note and I got my cousin to put it on his table to tell him that I think he's really hot. And I specified who it was because I didn't want to mix him up with the guy sitting next to him. And I said, I think you're really cute. So this is from me, the girl wearing the white jacket. Well, he proceeded to ignore me the whole night and didn't even look at me. So okay. But as I'm leaving, I see him driving off with a young lady that I knew. So I phone her up the next day and ask her about him. And I said, I see you were with the guy. Are you guys together? She goes, no. I said, well, he's really cute. She goes, no, not really. I go, well, I think he's cute. But she couldn't give me his number. She didn't really know how to get a hold of him, that kind of stuff. So, but she did tell me he was Greek. So I was like, oh, a Greek, and he's good looking. Maybe my parents will be fine with this. So I start, and he was from Zimbabwe. So I had friends from that area. So I phoned them up and tried to get a hold of them, go visit them. Do you know this guy? And a couple of them knew him, but he had gone and started an internship. So the trail was cold. Anyway, the week after, I go to a nightclub that I used to go to. I mean, I'm 20. I'm going out, okay? So I walk into this nightclub, and who's the barman at the club? Dennis. So I wrote him another note. I told him I still think he's cute. I told him that my family thinks, and it turns out that his family knows my family and vice versa. His dad would spend weekends at my grandparents' home because he was a farmer in Malawi as a single man. And he would drive to town, stop at my grandparents' home, spend the night, get fed, and move on. And here I am meeting their son and granddaughter meeting, just serendipitous. I think, not everything is just coincidence. It's, we've been married now 35 years. So
wow,
it worked out. Meeting the guy at the nightclub.
How you were just determined. You're looking over and smiling. You're like, doesn't matter. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. You knew this is the one you wanted. That was it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was a point that I was going to bring up about being determined when I had some health challenges a while ago, and we can get into those details. I went up to the Virgin Mary's icon, one at our church as you walk in, and I literally went up very determined and said, you were around to bring up your son. Okay. I said, I've got little kids. Please make me be around to bring up my kids. So my prayer was very direct and very determined, and she heard me. So thank you.
That's right. And it worked. Thank God. That's fantastic. I love that. That sounds like how you would do that. Sounds like you. But also, I mean, when he saw your note, he didn't look around or see you follow up, but just because he thought the note was dumb, right? He was just, he's like, well, who sends a note? That's ridiculous.
Come on. No curiosity. But obviously, now that I know my husband of 35 years, I would be super curious, I'd be going and researching and doing all of that. And Emma's like, It doesn't matter, whatever. Like, okay.
Yeah, I could see him today still making
Yeah.
those same decisions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
No, it's
Exactly.
wonderful.
So,
It's wonderful. So then, well, actually, there's another part of the story, though. How did you end up spending time with Dennis? Like,
oh, true.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when my parents literally, as soon as they found out this is a Greek boy, they know the family, it was you coming over. All right, so you came over for dinner, and it's like, what are you doing tomorrow night? You're coming over for dinner again. It's just, again, culturally, you just open up your home and feed people. Well, about a week later, Dennis got really sick. So my mom offered to take him to the doctor. She had a doctor. He was a student. He didn't know anybody. And he actually had malaria. Dennis often got malaria growing up in Malawi. He tended to be prone to it. And the doctor says this young man's got really serious malaria. He cannot be left alone. Like you need to watch him. And so my mother goes, of course, he's going to come spend the night at our house. So Sonia phones up all her friends and tells them, guess who's spending the night? My boyfriend. So, and then we do joke, because I don't think Dennis and I ever dated, like just the two of us to go out on a date, because he literally just became part of the family, and that was it.
That's so wonderful. I love that.
So, yeah.
I always picture, in Back to the Future, the girls, it's really the mother looking at her son, but the young woman is interested in Michael J. Fox, and his parents have him over because he was hit by a car, and she's so excited. And I just picture you.
They were like, yes, doesn't matter that my boyfriend's like, he's got malaria. But that's what happens. Yeah. So
how did you end up moving to Zimbabwe? Was that when he finished school? He wanted to go back, or what?
So Dennis had finished school by the time we got married, and he had his own. He was just being my husband, entrepreneur, wants to work for himself, doesn't want to work for somebody else. So he had his own little business. It was struggling to get off the world. I had my career. I was in advertising, loved it. We got married, and then about 18 months later, he was just really struggling with Johannesburg, with the big city, and just wanted to go back to Zimbabwe. And I did not want to go to Zimbabwe. I had a beautiful career. I had my family right there, and I did not want to move to a farm where my nearest neighbor is 4 miles away. And it's a huge ranch. It's like 4,500 acres. So wow. Huge ranch in the middle of nowhere. I did not want to go. And that definitely tested us. It really tested the marriage. It was like, well, what do we do? And Dennis says, well, I'm going. And I'm going, well, I'm not going. So Dennis left, and I did not leave. And it was about 4 months later that it was just like, I think it was more me just saying, because he kept on saying, I love you. I want you to be with me, but I can't be in South Africa. So it was like, you know what? I'm married. This is what you do. You married, you committed, let's go give it a shot. So I did go. It was tough because we were living like right next door to Dennis's parents. They were so excited they had their son there, but it was like, I was not, because I was away from everything I knew. I did not have my career anymore. I didn't have my family. It was very strange. It took me a long time to get into, hey, I'm now in Zimbabwe. And then I grew up as well. We got married at 23, but then I'm 25. 26, 27, and then it was a realization, Sonia, you're here, make the most of it. And I'll be honest, I made the most precious friends, people that I baptized my children. They're still friends with us to this day. And I'm so glad we went to Zimbabwe, because we had a beautiful life. We really did. And then we had our daughter there. So she was born in Zimbabwe. And then the whole Zimbabwe thing collapsed because we owned a farm. The government wanted to acquire the farm, and we could see the writing on the wall that we weren't going to be able to be there forever. So Dennis says, let's move out while we can. And unfortunately, we did move. That's when we came to America. And then 2 years later, his parents were literally kicked off the farm. They were told to leave. They were given 48 hours to leave, and otherwise, we don't know what may happen if you don't leave. So they had to leave everything they'd ever had, their retirement, everything, and leave. So
and
it was a crazy
that's
time.
Part of they're trying to end sort of white ownership, and sort of they're trying to maybe not doing it nicely, though, I think.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and
it's
the
hard, though.
unfortunate
It's a
thing
hard
is,
thing to transition away from, right? Because you have people who really own the land and they live there, but there also has to be, you want this restructuring. It's impossible to do it without just tearing everything up.
and we tried to get farmers to offer half their land to the government and that kind of stuff. What was really sad is Dennis and I could get onto an aeroplane and find another world to live in. But we employed over 100 families and they were also kicked off. So, and I think there's about maybe 5 of those families that still live on the farm because we're still in communication with a few of our past workers. And that was sad.
Wow.
They have nowhere to go.
Yeah, and so that, I mean, they're supposedly doing this for the people, right? But
No,
it's not really. It's just for their own.
They're croonies. One of our guys, one of the 2 that are on our farm, one is a minister. He's I don't know what, he's a pastor, sorry. And the other one is some army general that obviously the powers, they owed him. So, but sometimes it did us a favor because we came here and.
Yeah, time for the next chapter, I guess.
There we are.
So
exactly.
So you had, how old was Nicole? Was she like 3 or something like that?
She was just turned 4 when we moved here. Yeah. Okay. So she came here for the first time on vacation. She was 3 years old. She had just had her birthday. And that's what we were talking about earlier on about we came here Holy Monday. It was Dennis's birthday and it was Monday of Holy Week. And we moved in with our friends, Nick and Chrissy Spiropoulos, and Chrissy had baked him a cake. And it was a Lenten chocolate cake. And Dennis like, why Lenten? It's like, well, it is, it's late. We shouldn't be really eating this. It was okay. And then we arrive and it's like Monday night, we're going to service, bridegroom service. I'm like, okay. And we were like, we're living with these people, we'll just follow them. And then we went to church on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, and then Thursday. And we were sitting around the dinner table the one night, and Dennis turns to Chrissy or Nick and says, we don't have this many services and Holy Week in Zimbabwe. And I said to Dennis, yes, we do. We do. Just, we don't always go to them, Dennis. We don't always go to them. So,
that's funny.
But it was beautiful because, as you know, our church is our parish is such a beautiful parish. So from the first day we were there, it's like, who are you? Come here. You're part of us. And it was beautiful. We got to know so many people and meet so many people that we still friends with to this day. So
that's beautiful. Well, and sometimes these things, you don't know that you need to be going to church and being part of this community, and you just kind of get dragged along, and then you're like, oh, I'll take this direction. This is where
exactly.
It's nice. It works out well, even if at first it seemed a little odd. It's wonderful. When I'm so glad that you did. So. Did you know right away that you wanted to move to Texas, or was it a little bit of investigation and then everyone was so nice? And
we were going to go to Australia. Australia had a much easier immigration policy. We had enough points. They had a point system, and I had enough points and with my degree and that to go there. But then Nick Spiropoulos phoned us up and said, before you make a decision, just come see America. So literally we arrived. We drove from the airport. Dennis looks around and complained that everything looked so flat. So he goes, it's so flat here. And I go, shh, we don't say that. We're staying at these people's home. We're going to say nice things about the place.
Well,
so we arrived.
Africa. I mean,
yes, yeah.
So beautiful and verdant and everything. It's just like, driving down my back. Great.
but they lived in Lakeway, which is beautiful. Yeah. And we arrived and Nick says, you know what, why don't we let the women unpack? Let me take you for a drive. So Dennis and Nick literally drove around for 45 minutes, came back. Dennis walked in. He goes, we're moving here. That was it.
That was it.
That's it. No more investigation, no more nothing. We're moving here. Obviously, immigration took a little while and all the visa process, but that was it. That was the decision. 45 minutes of driving. Yeah. So
that is great. That is great. So then after you were here, you have Nicole already, but then you had another child, right?
Yeah, I had 2 miscarriages before I fell pregnant. So it was one of those like, am I ever going to fall pregnant? I've had 2 miscarriages, now we're moving to America and the stress and this and that. Well, 6 weeks later, I take a pregnancy test And I look at this and I go, like, when did that happen? I went to Dennis, none of this Instagrammable kind of like, how do you tell your partner? It was literally like, okay, in all this craziness of our life, I'm having a baby. Okay. But again, both my pregnancies with Theo and Nicole, I had spotting, I had some issues. So I was worried that maybe I was going to have another miscarriage, but it all worked out beautifully, thank God. And I had Theo. We arrived here in July. Theo was born like 11 months later. So
glory to God.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful.
So his name is Theodoros, after my father, and it means God's gift, and he truly is. So
that's beautiful.
Although I'll tell you a little funny story about Theo. His name Theo, just the word Theo means God. So he would tell everybody his name is God.
That sounds like Theo, yeah.
It does. Like, no.
That is great. Well, we're going to take a short break, just about 1 minute. We'll be right back, and I want to hear more about your story. So thanks, Sonia. We'll be right back.
Cool.
Each year after Pascha, the Orthodox Church celebrates the holy myrrh bearers, who cared for Jesus' body after he was crucified. But myrrh bearing has a broader definition. It can serve as a metaphor for the practical, incarnate love to which Christ calls his followers. In The Art of Myrrh Bearing, author Elisa Bielatich Davis explores the lives of grace-filled myrrh-bearing saints in Scripture and throughout the life of the Church, offering questions for reflection in each chapter. By following the lead of compassionate saints, such as Joseph of Arimathea and Olga of Alaska, we can learn to embrace a simple and profound way of life in ever-deepening communion with Christ and with others. You can find this book at store.ancientfaith.com. Again, that is store.ancientfaith.com.
Welcome back to Everyday Orthodox. I'm Elisa Bielatich Davis, and this is Sonia Phocas, and she is here with us tonight. We're talking about, she's Greek, but she grew up in South Africa. She was born and raised there, moved to Zimbabwe, and then eventually found her way to Texas. So, Sonia, when you came to Texas then, well, I guess you were pregnant right away, so I suppose you were busy with that. But what was Dennis doing? Like, what was financially, what was the plan for here? Could he bring his business from Zimbabwe somehow, or what was it going to be?
So that's basically what we were doing. We had friends and back in Zimbabwe, they were selling flowers. They were growing flowers. So we thought that would be a great way. We could export flowers from Zimbabwe and sell them here in Texas. And Dennis worked really hard and found a beautiful market, and that was great, except the flowers would arrive and they'd be sitting out in the tarmac in the Texas heat and they would boil, or they would be left on some tarmac at the airport in Washington, D.C. and freeze over. So it was hard. It was hard. Those first few months, it was like, what have we done? Like, have we made the right choice? We could have easily just moved to South Africa and just, started a life there with wonderful support system physically there. But Dennis he had lived in Malawi, lived in Zimbabwe. He says, let's just get out of Africa, start a new life elsewhere. So then he decided, let me look into something else. And we had an opportunity to look into, there was a Greek man in South Africa who was wanting to find somebody to import or to set up a shop where he could export slabs. And we took a look at that. That deal went south, and also you would have needed so much money to open it. But in the research, Dennis goes, you know what? This is not basically rocket science. I can fabricate countertops. So we had a couple of friends of ours, one of us from church, who's actually Theo's godfather, his nono. And he said, well, I'll buy the stone, you do my countertop. It took us 6 weeks to do the kitchen. Now we do, 20 homes in a week kind of thing.
Well, thank goodness that 6 weeks of kitchen, that's going to be pricey after a while. So.
Yeah, just a little bit. But started off just with one guy in the shop, and thank God we've been really blessed. We had the opportunity to build the altar at Transfiguration. The Colovises approached us, and they wanted to donate to it, and they said, "Would you mind building it?" Dennis, my husband's a yes man. He doesn't know the first thing about building an altar, but he's a yes man. He goes, "I can do it." Like, okay. So he ran to our friends at the monastery, and asked them, "Can I see the altar so I can build an altar?" And so thank goodness we've been busy. We now employ 42 people, and putting our kids through college, and have a home, a wonderful roof over our head. And so we've been very blessed. Austin's also been great for us. Again, is it coincidence, or this is where
maybe that's where you're supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
This is the plan. I don't know if he really puts us places or if he just makes the thing just turn out perfectly, or, but I have a feeling he knew what he was going to do before you got here. But
yeah.
So yeah, it is a wonderful business, right? Alpha Granite. And you've done countertops at the church and the airport and all over the place. I'm always like, you see this granite here? I know the people.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
But no, it's funny because, you did the granite in the new church as well, right? We have a new hall. Did you know Dennis thought of the idea of that hall? We were planning to put the hall at the bottom. And one day Dennis is like, "Come with me, come here." We go up to the parking lot at the top of the hill. And he's like, "Why don't we have a building here?" And it was like, nobody had ever thought. For years, we're trying to build a building at the bottom of the hill and hitting all these roadblocks. And it's like, oh, right. There's a really nice view up here.
There we are. We can just do that.
The Capitol. It's gorgeous. So now we have the prettiest hall anywhere. And people are very impressed with it. And what they don't know is actually, thank you, Dennis. It was really his idea. It turned out so nicely. It's beautiful. But so as you raised the kids, did they, I guess they didn't miss Africa really, but they had family there. So do they kind of wish that they had grown up with family, or are they happy to be in America?
So I think growing up, going back home, firstly, because of our visa, we were told don't leave the country. Just stay here until you get your green card, just so that we can be sure that we've got a residency. So my prayer every night was, please, God, don't make something happen that makes us have to go back home, whether it's a sibling getting sick or a parent getting sick. So nothing happened. My parents came every year. Dennis's parents came about every other year. So that was great. So my kids grew up around their grandparents, because my parents would come. Being Greek, you don't come for a weekend. You come for 3 months. Right. So
in South Africa, it's a long flight. You stick around.
Just a little.
It's lovely because I know your parents, and I knew Dennis's parents, his mother, and I knew his father. May his memory be eternal. And they were lovely. I mean, we feel like we all know them, even though they actually live in Africa, in fact.
Exactly. So my kids are close with them, but they do feel they've missed out on that family connection. But just like anybody that's had to move to another place, you make a different family. You do. We have those friends that are the Thanksgiving friends that we have Thanksgiving with every single year. The ones that you phone in the middle of the night, and most of them are from our church. And one thing I'd say about belonging to a parish, and our parish as well, I'm not reliant on my neighbors per se. Where some of my neighbors here, once a neighbor moves, that friendship dies in a sense, because they're so dependent on each other, being next door to each other. We don't have that. Our friends are they're just part of the church. Doesn't matter that they live 40 miles away.
Right. And they could move to another state and we'd still be in touch. And we'd still be in touch. Come to each other's festivals and feasts and all of that.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's beautiful. Relationships through the church really are much more like really family than a lot of other friends you make. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And Nicole's got, so my daughter lives in Brooklyn, and it was the 4 Musketeers, 4 girls that were all in Goya together, close friends. 3 out of the 4, my daughter and 2 of her friends, live in the same city. They live in Brooklyn. They see each other often, and they didn't go to school together. They just did Goya together. They just came to church together. They did retreats together. But it gave them that everlasting bond.
It's wonderful. It's really good. And so, speaking of which, your children are wonderful, by the way. They're just bright and charming and lovely. I enjoy them both.
Thank you.
But so when you were here, you have made a lot of friends that really, it feels like they're your sisters and your cousins. And like, this does feel like a family. Absolutely. So you mentioned that you had some challenging years with some health problems, which I remember. And so how long did that last? Because well, tell us about it, I guess, from the start.
No, absolutely. I think I'm one of the lucky ones. Well, my grandmother and my mother both had breast cancer. So it's always been in the back of my mind that it's probably hereditary. So in 2010, I did the Baraka test, and it didn't come up as a hereditary thing. But I've always been very good about doing my mammograms and checking my breasts. And then the one evening I felt a lump. So I don't delay, go to the doctor the next day. He sends me for a biopsy, and I'll tell you, I'll give you the synopsis, and I'll tell you my biopsy story. And it turns out to be positive for breast cancer, but pretty early, a very aggressive form of cancer, of breast cancer, but still stage 1, where the doctors then said, we want to do surgery, we'll do lumpectomy and just take out the lump. And I was thank God I've had my children. I was 44, and I said, double mastectomy. Let's just double mastectomy, do whatever you can with it. And the doctor said, because it's so aggressive, we're going to have to attack it with chemotherapy as well. So it was, you know what, doctor? You know, that was always my prayer. Put me in good hands, because these people are making decisions for you. I'm not a doctor. So I was given beautiful doctors, very, very wonderful people. So that was December 2011. And then I started my chemo 2 weeks after my surgery. And that was like 6 months. And then was in remission. And the doctor said, we took everything out. We've given you the chemo. And thank God, that was 2012. It's now 13 years. And I've been great and good and had a couple scares, but it landed up being nothing. It just landed up being, you're getting old, so things happen kind of thing. Otherwise, thank God. And, again, just having people praying for me, it is something, like, even when like your faith is not so much tested, but when sometimes just life is going along and everything's okay, and you're not like thinking about, oh, I need to pray, or I need to do my stuff. So when you're going through things and you ask people to pray for you, it's just weird. Well, I don't think it's weird, but you feel it. When I was going in for my surgery and Father Vasily was next to me and he says, I've come in to pray with you, I said, God, Father, don't worry. Like, thank you. But I can actually feel people are praying. So it's pretty cool. I will tell you my biopsy story, because I get goosebumps every time I think about it. So if anybody has never had a biopsy, or you're lying down and that part of your body is literally, the doctor or the person who's doing it is underneath, taking out whatever they need. And I was alone, because Dennis was visiting his father, who was unfortunately battling lung cancer at the same time.
Right.
So I was alone, didn't have anybody with me, said my prayers. And as I'm lying down, Archangel Michael was standing at the door. I felt like he was there or anything like that. He was there. Okay. And next to me, putting her hand on my shoulder, was the Virgin Mary. Like, so I'm lying down flat, and I just feel this hand. And it's not just like, I just knew the saints were with it. Like, she was there. She was there. And it was like, I'm going to be okay. Thank you. Because she was like, especially, I had asked her very insistently, you better make sure I'm good. Well, you're good. You're good. And it's just like, thank God. Thank God. And I think a lot of it is, our grandparents' prayers got us through. Our mother's prayers got us through. And it's just, they may be up in heaven, but they're still praying for us. And so
that's right. Yeah.
Their prayers definitely helped. So, yeah. So that's my little biopsy story.
Yeah. That was, I remember that. That's beautiful. But a friend of mine, actually, she's like Greek woman. She's younger. She's in her 20s. She had cancer. She was in Houston and she had a very similar thing. St. Basil came to her and just sort of showed up and he didn't say anything. He just kind of patted her and she was like, oh, then I knew it was going to be okay. And it was, you know, it took a few days, but it was eventually. It took a while. But exactly. It's such a difference. It's not, I think sometimes people assume that you pray and you're hoping for a miracle. You're hoping. Yeah. It's almost that it's just the comfort and it's the peace and it's the knowing that it's okay and that you're in good hands, that is the real miracle that we need. You know, that's, it gets us through a lot and it's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. When I was pregnant with Nicole, because I'd had a miscarriage actually before Nicole as well. So when I was pregnant with Nicole and I started spotting, it was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening to me, you know, drama queen kind of thing. Anyway, that night,
drama queen. It's a dramatic situation.
Yeah, it is. But literally, I'm not very good about reading my Bible all the time, but I literally just opened up our book and I went, okay, what? So I open it up and there's the first verse that comes up, oh, ye of little faith. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, slap across the face. So, I honestly, I've had two of those scenarios. So that one with Nicole, and then we were just, should we move to America? Should we not move to America? So I said, okay, Lord, you have to show me a sign. You have to, you know. There we are, being dramatic. You have to show me a sign. Right. And unfortunately, I mean, such bad timing. The next day was 9/11, and there was just catastrophe. And for us, we were thinking of going to America, so we were very acute to what was happening. Whereas people in Zimbabwe, it was like, okay, a little terrorist attack kind of thing. But for us, and again, I opened up the Bible, and there was a verse about something about looking for signs in the sky. It's basically like saying, like, stop it. Like, no. Okay. Ooh. You don't need to task me to show you a sign. Okay. Kind of thing. So that's the way I took it. So.
Oh, that's neat. That's really neat. So yeah, I have a friend in Houston who had cancer at one point, and then he was in remission, and like 2 months later, his wife got cancer, and you may know her actually, but we won't talk about that. But so when she had cancer, he said to her, you know, someday you'll thank God for this cancer. And she was really annoyed that he had said such a thing because she thought that was crazy and she wasn't thankful for his cancer or her cancer. But she found in time that she really agreed with it, that there was something about the experience and of being maybe relying on God more or something like that that really connected her more. Do you feel like there's anything like that in that experience for you, or are you just glad that it's over? I mean, that's fair too.
Both, absolutely. I think it's just a reminder of how little we are not in control. Okay. But, and how important it is to just give it over. And just, it's like, okay, it is what it is. Because I'm also the personality of, okay, this is what's happened. What are we going to do? Let's move on kind of thing. But it's also, now I know what to do. Give it over, okay, and move on, okay. Right. My gran would remind me when I'd wake up panicking that I hadn't studied for a test, and I'd go to my grandmother and say, Granny, you have to pray for me. Please pray for me today while I write my test and my exam. And she'd go, God's only going to help you as much as you've helped yourself. Like, you're right. So yes, give it over to him, but you've still got to do the work as well.
That's right.
And also, as my kids grew up and got older, you know, bigger kids, bigger problems sometimes, and learning that they are in God's hands and not in our hands, and we've just got to sometimes just pray and just, you know what to do, Lord, just help me along, kind of thing. And then on those days where I'm just like, I don't know what to pray, it's like he just said, if you don't know what to pray, just pray the Lord's Prayer. There we are.
You don't have to know what to pray. Like, he knows. You just,
he knows.
Remember me. Remember my friends, my family, you know.
Yeah, please.
The year before you had cancer, my daughter had a liver transplant, right? And I remember very similarly when she was in the hospital, people would say, something like, oh, you're praying a lot and that's wonderful. And how do you know to rely on that? And I'm just looking at them and it's like, well, if I don't pray, I'm miserable and I'm like in this horrible spiral. But if I pray, I'm okay. So I learned very quickly, like, it's not some deep, wonderful thing. It's like when you're in the situation where it's really needed, you can feel that it's needed and it's the only thing that's helping. So you just do it. It's not.
Absolutely. And it's so like comforting. Like, I don't know, like it's a big sigh of, okay, right? There we are. Oh, yeah, having unction oil. And just like, okay, here's my unction oil. I'm going to put a little bit more on today. Oh, I've woken up. I've got some holy water. Let me take a little sip of it. It's just, it's there kind of thing. So it is very comforting. And I don't know what the alternative is. Like, I can't.
Well, the alternative so far seems terrible. So I'm not going to try that,
Exactly. And I've always had family praying for me. I was 12 years old. I had a seizure out of the blue, an epileptic seizure. The doctors didn't know where it came from. They thought maybe it would be hormonal. They didn't know. Well, what does my gran do? What every other granny does, she fasts and prays for me. And I was put on medication for 2 years. And 2 years later, I had another EEG. The doctor says, there's nothing wrong with you. Get on with your life, kind of thing. Wow. So St. Nectarios, thumbs up to St. Nectarios for helping, spreading the word. But, there's the prayers of our grands and our moms. And so it's always just been in our home and our faith. And that's what you do, kind of thing. So,
and it's beautiful, right? And it's wonderful because we can do that for each other. And like, it's possible and we can do it. And we're not there's nothing stopping us. There's nothing in our way. And, even if you're not in touch with someone or near someone, you can pray for them. And if you understand that it really makes a difference, it's very valuable. I know, as you mentioned, you could feel people's prayers, right? I know there have been times when I've been really upset and I would text some of my friends and just say, please pray for me. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, a few minutes later, something would just kind of wash over me. And it's like, oh, look at that. You did pray for me. Thank you. It's a beautiful thing. It's really,
it is lovely. I'll tell you. So my gran had, in those days, she had a confessor, and it was a priest or a monk, in Greece, Elder Frem.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
really?
she would write. Yeah, she would confess via letters. So she would write to him. He would write back to her, and they had this pen pal kind of confession thing. And he would often ask her, "Please pray for me. I'm trying to go into America and open up monasteries, but I cannot. I'm finding roadblocks, and I really want to go. So please pray for me." Anyway, she would talk to my mom about it, and she said, "This man is a holy man. He's wonderful. I hope one day you get to meet him." And my mom goes. And by then, I think Elder Frem had moved to America. She goes, "Mom, what are the odds of me going to America? Like, whatever. Okay. Well,
what are the odds of me going next door to his monastery in Texas?"
Exactly. I arrived here, and Father Jordan had organized a tour to go to the monastery. So I went to the monastery. I came back, and I said, "Mom, there's a monastery like just down the road from our church." She goes, "Oh, really?" And I started talking about it. She goes, "That is Elder Frem's monasteries, one of the monasteries that is open." Well, my mom didn't only get to meet him once, got to meet him twice and got to see him. So she goes, "Oh my goodness, your grandmother really made sure we got to meet him." So.
Absolutely. She wanted to make sure. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
That gives me goosebumps. That's neat.
It does.
The odds of that.
Yeah. And then they were both, my mom and my grandmother got to meet St. Porphyrios in Athens.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So I've actually recorded my mom telling somebody that story because I said, this is not a story that this is a story I don't want to lose, where he was blind by that stage, but he knew exactly who they were, knew their names and everything. Wow. It was, just wonderful. So
that's neat. I love St. Porphyrios. I would have loved to have. Yeah, I want to hear that story someday. I want to hear the recording.
Absolutely.
That's neat. That's very special. That's But so it's really lovely how the faith is so, as you're saying, like they kept the faith without even a church in town, right? Yeah. Like in Malawi. And so it was just always so strong. Is it all of your family strong with faith like that? Or is it like often, it's the grandmother and the mom, like there are a couple of women who are really strong and everybody else is sort of there? Or what do you think?
I think in a sense, it's a part of being Greek as well. You grow up, you're Greek, you're just Greek Orthodox. You go to church. It's so intermingled. Like, of course, you're going to go to church on Easter, on Good Friday and Resurrection. You may not go any other time, but of course you're going to go. Of course you're going to pray, that kind of stuff. Now, have some of our family members been tested? Absolutely. Are some more just, they're still Orthodox, but maybe aren't in the faith as vibrant all the time. Right. Again, it's a personal journey. Everybody's on their own road, and I'm hoping that I wake up one day and it's like I wake up on Sunday and like I really don't want to go to church today. It's just having one of those days, or I didn't say my prayers tonight, that kind of stuff. And then you have other days where you go, thank you, Lord, for everything. Today's a great day, and I'm not going to just come to you when it's a bad day. I also want to say thank you for the good days too. But I think so much of it is intertwined. Like what got a lot of getting used to was moving to this country and realizing that people actually chose to be Orthodox, not because they married somebody, but like whole families would come and convert. And it was like well, why? What? Like, really? Like, I grew up and it was all in Greek. I didn't understand a word of the service, and you maybe understanding half of it, and yet you still committed. So like, okay, if you guys can do it, maybe I can do it too, kind of thing.
Well, and it's confusing as a convert coming in too, because it is like mixed in with the culture so much. And so then you start thinking, well, do they not even value the orthodoxy part? Are they just, it's just because they're great. But it is so beautiful to have it so tied into the culture, because so many of your, like, just the way you think about things, or I don't know how to say it exactly, but it's like things are built in and sort of baked in a way that maybe it's good that you don't see them and it's not intentional, not because you wouldn't want to see them, but because it's effortless. And thank God for that. And that's wonderful. And may we someday have an American Orthodoxy that is, just so wonderful that you can't tell the difference between being American and being Orthodox. That'd be great, right? That's ideal.
Exactly. It's like, when you start a business, of course you get the priest to come over and do the blessing,
Of course.
When your kids are moving into college, you take the bottle of ayasmo, the holy water, and you sprinkle it everywhere. And, you freak out your kids that are like, you wet the other kid's bed. Like, it's fine. It will dry. But you
this
do
is my
that.
First impression on the roommate, Mom. What are you doing? That is funny. That is very, you can picture like the Greek mother doing that. That's awesome. But you're right. It's a beautiful thing, and it's really wonderful.
So
great. You're very lucky to have that. It's really, really neat. I love that. But I think that's wonderful. And you have such a beautiful family, and everyone's doing well. And so Nicole's off in Brooklyn, and Theo's still in school, right? So he's still in school. You guys. That's nice.
Yeah. So he's not living with us. He's living in some digs with some other guys, but he's not far away.
Oh, he's not really with you. He's just nearby. Yeah.
He's just nearby. So again, my grand would say, when your kids, when they turn 12, they're no longer yours. They are the world's and God's. Because I think that at 12 years old, that's when they can start thinking for themselves, in a sense. But it was just interesting that she was like, at 12 years old, they're not yours anymore. It's like, okay.
That is actually very good advice. And if I had realized that when my oldest turned 12, it took me a while to find it, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, this isn't working at all anymore. Like I can just pray and hope for the best and do what I can. It's really true. Well, they're always gods, of course. They're always gods anyway, but more so when they know it, for sure.
And just being able to just hand it over and just go, okay, they're in your hands, and I need to be reminded of that. Yes. And I think so. That's all we can do, is just pray for them and just pray that they're well and happy and on their right path of where they need to be.
And God willing, it will be just as effective as your grandmother's prayers and your mother's prayers and all the beautiful prayers that have helped you out over the years. Thank you so much, Sonia. It's just been wonderful to get and sit and talk with you.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really humbled that you asked me, Alyssa. Thank you.
It was just beautiful, and I'm sure our audience enjoyed it as well. So thank you very much. And thank you to our audience for joining us again. And we'll see you next Sunday. I will be out of town. I'm speaking at a Focus fundraising dinner. So it'll be really neat up in Cleveland. I'm looking forward to it. I love Focus. But the week after that, a new everyday Orthodox Christian, I promise. We'll see you then.